A very warm good morning to all of you, my dear friends. We are daughter of NC sir amongst us. Thank you, ma'am. I am Swapnajit Sanyal. I am the General Secretary of the National Federation for New States, Nfns. I come from Nagpur, that is Vidarbha.
Okay, so today's meeting, how many states representative are meeting? Those who are demanding for separate state, and why is it necessary for separate state?
Of the 10 uh, associates, 7 are representing today. And in today's meeting, they are present. Their representatives are present.
And okay, why this demand has come, and how it is of course a constitutional demand. There is no doubt about it, and how the people are presently suffering. Why the necessity for this separate state?
The demand is legal in the sense that it is a constitutional demand. This demand is not a new demand. I can tell you of some of the constituents of NFNS where the demand is more than 100 years old. For example, Vidarbha. You are also aware that the Gorkhaland demand is 100 years old. The Bodoland demand is almost 40-50 years old. So none of these demands are new. And since the Constitution itself provides that there can be separate states in one nation, our basic motto, therefore, is one nation, several states. In addition to the underdevelopment, or rather lack of development, there is also a question of grant of autonomy to these areas which are demanding separate statehood. So it's a mixed kind of a demand, I would say.
It's mixed. Is it on the basis of any community like the Vidarbha? It has its own problems also. As we often read in the paper, a lot of underdevelopments are there, and the farmers are the worst sufferer. So, has it got some association with that also?
It has, definitely it has. Other than the kind of demands that exists in the Northeast, which is basically ethnic, in the sense that traditions and customs and other things are a subject matter. There are areas such as Bundelkhand, Vidarbha, uh, and for that matter Ladakh also, where this demand is more or less based on the lack of development, the pathetic situation in which its population is in, agrarian distress, etc.
But why this demand is not been taking so long? Because, and why this underdevelopment?
There's a simple answer to this: lack of political will.
Lack of politics. Thank you, sir.
am the president of National Federation for New States, and I represent Gorkhaland here.
So, तमंग जी, ये जो डिमांड आ रहा है, वी हैव बीन सीइंग इन वेस्ट बंगाल लॉट ऑफ पॉलिटिक्स ऑन दिस. सो बेसिकली आपको क्या लगता है कि इसके पीछे इतना लेट होने का मूल कारण क्या सिर्फ पॉलिटिकल ही है कि दूसरा भी कोई कारण है?
As Sanil Sab just mentioned to you, the first reason that we can understand is a lack of political will from the government, because this demand is a long-standing and a constitutional demand. And not only is it long-standing, but this has also been registered in the manifesto of the present ruling party, not just in the last election, but also in the election previous to that. So it is not as if this demand is not recognized by the political class. The political class is aware of this demand. It is well aware of it. It has engaged with this demand, especially during the time of elections. But as far as showing a political will towards finding a solution, that seems to be absolutely lacking. Now, in the case of Gorkhaland, in the last manifesto, the present ruling party called for a permanent political solution, without defining the name of a state or without defining what it is. But be that as it may be, uh, we were happy that the government had at least committed, the party had at least committed itself to finding a political solution. But there doesn't seem to be any progress in that direction at all. In fact, we are very disappointed that there hasn't even been a consistent series of talks and other engagements. There has been a couple of talks, but very sporadic, and and without connection to the next talk. So that is what is disappointing. That only shows the lack of engagement. Only shows that there is a lack of political will, and that is exactly what we want. The government should speak its mind. The government should engage, and the government should express what it thinks about our demand.
But we find only things like in Manipur, the present scenario you can see. We can see only the government when the situation takes a turmoil or something like this. Don't you think that the government is responsible for such a situation to be created when such issues or demands are pending for, you said, more than half a century? So how do you see into the overall? Because it's not only the present government, earlier also the state government is also there as associated with the underdevelopment that
The underdevelopment and ethnic demands, as Sanil Sir pointed out, are certainly some factors. But in many cases, that is not the only factor. There are other things. All these regions that we are talking about in our demand for separate state are regions that have their own distinct history, their own distinct identity, and they are part of whichever state they are as a matter of some historical accidents, and that needs to be corrected. You know, when India was formed, there were 14 states, but many more states were created because certain things in history had to be addressed. Now, what we want to say is that these regions that we're talking about are also part of the states that they are in as a matter of historical accidents and some administrative necessities of the British India. Now the British have left India. We are already in the Amrit Kal now. It's 75 years now. So by now we should have corrected all of these anomalies. And it's unfortunate, therefore, that there is no attempt at all to address these matters of history, these issues of history. And this is what we want to press upon the government.
thank you, sir.
Advocate in the Supreme Court, but associated with Nfns on behalf of Telangana. So we have been in this forum right from the beginning. Initially, it was called Indian National Front for Small States, and later on, the name changed to Indian Federation for New States. So this is the background.
So Telangana already is it there are already the demand that has come, you were associated with that one, and Telangana has been a new state overall?
Yes, what we see, what we have been finding after 1950, the first time after independence, the states got reorganized on linguistic basis, based on a state reorganization commission headed by a retired judge of the Supreme Court, Justice Fazal Ali, and two very scholarly persons as members, K.M. Panikkar and then H.N. Hridayanath Kunzru. These are the two scholar members of the State Reorganization Commission. They went about their work with a criteria. Whereas now, when the Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and Uttarakhand were formed, or even when Telangana is formed, they are not based on, they are just based on political expediency. There is no policy, there is no criteria behind. So I think if we have to reorganize India, make it strong federally, then there has to be a policy on state formation. If not policy, at least criteria for state formation. Let them say, why was Telangana formed? No answer. When Jharkhand, Uttarakhand, and Chhattisgarh were formed, there was no policy, there was no criteria, but at least there was a process. At that point of time, the Home Minister said, if those assemblies, if the Bihar Assembly passes a resolution allowing Jharkhand, if Uttar Pradesh Assembly passes a resolution allowing Uttarakhand, if Madhya Pradesh Assembly passes a resolution allowing Chhattisgarh, we will form it. And look at the Chief Ministers. Who is the Home Minister? Advani is the Home Minister. Who is the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh? Digvijay Singh, Congress. Who is the Chief Minister of Bihar? Lalu Prasad Yadav. Who is the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh? Mulayam Singh. Different colors. Mulayam Singh is one color, Lalu is another color, Digvijay another color, Advani another color. How did they come together? Advani said, let there be a process. At least there was a process. Now there is no process. It's all political expediency. Now all that is past. We should have a policy. If not a policy, have a criteria for state formation.